Hello and welcome to the Situational Leadership video. In this particular video, I'm going to talk you through the Hershey-Blanchard Situational Leadership Theory model. And so there's a series of slides that you can use to follow along. Basically, this model is saying that there is no one best way to influence people. A successful leader will actually adapt their style to fit the requirements of the situation. So, once upon a time we used to talk democratic, autocratic, laissez-faire leadership. This is about saying, no, it's actually about the circumstances, the situation, and the individual. And so I then as a leader will flex my style to suit all of those three things. And so what the leader does is they map their leadership style with the maturity level of that particular individual. And then they've got to adjust it. So it's based on, what task are they doing? Because there's some tasks we're going to be fully proficient in. And so a leader can really let us be to our own devices. And other tasks that we're perhaps just learning in, or they're not our strengths. And so we need a little bit more coaching and directing at this form. So the individual adjusts their style based on the task, the actual individual that they're working with, the circumstances and the timelines. Okay, so whilst it's really nice to say this is a model, it's not cookie cutter and it's not a verbatim this is what we have to do. It's about saying, okay, this gives us some really good indicators of what kind of leadership style I could adopt to get the best out of any individual in any given situation. But you've got to also understand that sometimes time frames and tight timelines or lack of resources mean that we do have to apply a different approach in certain situations. So the amount of direction or the support that you provide depends on the actual development level that the individual has on any specific given task. Okay, so what you'll see on this next slide is that the leadership model. So we've got 4 different quadrants. So we've got the S1 quadrant where you would apply a more directing style approach. We've got the S2 quadrant where you'd apply a coaching style approach. S3 would be a supporting style and S4 would be delegating. Underneath that, you've got the development level of the individual. And so what you do is you match the individual across the spectrum of D1, 2, 3, and 4. You would draw a line up from there, and wherever it corresponds with that hump that's going right through the matrix, the graph, is what kind of approach you would apply. So if you're in D1 and you draw a line up, then you're going to intersect the line at a directing model. D2, you're going to intersect the line at a coaching model. D3 will intersect the line at supporting, and D4 will intersect the line at delegating. So if you think about an employee life cycle or a task life cycle, you start something new, whether it be a job or a task, and at that point you're pretty green, and so you're generally working from the right to the left in this model. So it's more directing when that person's first learning something, moving them through coaching. With the right leadership skills, you can get them up over that hump, move them into that supporting quadrant, and then finally put them down to the delegating. So if you've got high performers in your team, generally that delegating approach is the approach you want to take, where it's low directive and low supportive. You really just tell them the ultimate outcome of what it is you need for them to achieve, and they just get on with the job and do it. So the different stages of development. As the development level of that individual decreases, so they move from D1 right through to D4, their actual competence and commitment fluctuates. Okay, so when they're brand new, when they're in D1, they've got little or any prior knowledge or experience. And so they come in, they're green, they're an enthusiastic individual, and they are ready to learn. Nothing's too hard at this point because it's all brand new. Now, with time, when they start to understand the task or the role a little bit more, they move through D2 competence. And so at this point, the individual may actually struggle with the complexity of the task or have a lack of interest in the task. So they now know a little bit about it. They can see how big the skill gap is in the development area that's needed, or they know a little bit about it and they've just got no interest to actually perform the task. And so at this point, disillusionment decreases their commitment levels. Now, if you're going to lose a new employee, it's generally around this phase that they will leave employment. So once they move through to D3, you've got them up over that hump from coaching, you've taken them into the D3 quadrant, The individual may struggle with variable feelings of competence and self-doubt. And so what you get with people on this level is commitment fluctuates from excitement to insecurity. Okay, you've probably got full confidence that they can do the job, but they don't always have full confidence that they can do the job without your support. Because you can see this is the curve starting to come down now, which means you're actually starting to taper off the level of support that you give to them. So once we move them through as a D4 peak performer, so the peak performer who demonstrates a high level of competence, motivation, and confidence. And so they've got high commitment and high competence at this point. These are the guys that you really want to look after. You don't want to micromanage. You want to give them the big picture. This is what I need from you. Go away, be creative. I don't care how you get there, but this is the end result that I need by this particular date. And so if you're working with general managers, this is the style you're generally giving them. You're telling them, here's the strategy, the overall strategy, here's your budget. Go away and disseminate that and do what you will with your team. So with the right support, basically an individual can progress from an enthusiastic beginner to disillusioned learner to reluctant contributor and then finally peak performer. And if you're struggling with someone at any given time, just have a look at what kind of leadership style you are applying, or perhaps they're a great high performer, but there's certain tasks that you're really struggling to get something from. Have a look whether you need to step it back to this model and perhaps change your tact on how you're actually going to approach it. So leadership style for probability of effectiveness. So directing is for low development levels. Okay, the directing style provides clear, specific direction and close supervision. So the leader defines the role and tells the individual what, how, when, where, and where to do various tasks. So the authority is really sitting with the leader at this point. You're giving them that directing kind of approach. Brand new employees or someone who is brand new to a task. The coaching model, so it's for low to moderate development levels. So a coaching style provides directive behavior because of their lack of competence, but also supportive behavior to build confidence and enthusiasm. Okay, this is where we really start to teach them how to do the role on their own, which means we've got to scale back a little bit on the support that we're starting to offer if we're going to be able to get them over into that supporting quadrant. So coaching encourages two-way conversation. So unlike directing, which is pretty much one way, this now becomes two-way communication. And so it's helping to build their confidence and their motivation whilst keeping the responsibility for and the control of decision-making with the leader. So at this point, you still are in control of those things. It's when we start to shift them over and we're starting to pull back the supporting behavior, that's when we're really starting to empower them to make decisions. So now if we look at the supporting quadrant, so it's for moderate to high development levels. A supporting style, two-way communication again. Active listening is really important, and so you've got to support the individual to grow and develop their skills, okay? Empower them to start making the decisions, start rolling back your supportive kind of behavior. Supporting entails joint decision making with the key roles of the leader being listening and facilitating. Finally, we've got the delegating element. So delegating is for the individual at a high development level on a particular task. So a delegating style contains little direction and support. The individual is empowered and has full responsibility of how and when they perform the task and how they're going to accomplish it. So they're the different styles. I hope that gives you a really good insight into what this model is about. We'll certainly, unpack it and explore it more in our coaching sessions. But otherwise, it's a nice foundational framework that you can really start to sink your teeth in and change your leadership style. Okay, look forward to seeing you in the session.